Hello, and thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. My name is Kara, and I'm a holistic health practitioner for both people and pets. After working for years in the conventional medicine field, I realized that while our lifespans may be getting longer, our health spans are rapidly shrinking. And when it comes to our pets, both their length and quality of life are decreasing. When I turned to functional medicine and a more holistic approach to health, I saw dramatic improvements for my pets, myself, and my patients. Join me each week as I merge natural health for people and pets by focusing on the root cause of disease and applying raw, real remedies that you can use to improve overall wellness for every member of your family, including the furry ones. All right, everybody, and here we are back with the amazing Angela Ardolino, and we are going to talk about full spectrum hemp extracts and really break it down today. So this is going to be an amazing conversation. Angie, thank you for coming on.
Kara, I love talking to you. It's my favorite. You're like my favorite person to talk to just because we get to share everything. You come from the conventional world and we can compare. And that's usually I'll go, this is what happens in conventional medicine. And everybody just takes it. And you're like, yep, that's what happens. And it's 10 times worse than you know. And I'm like, ah.
God, it's terrible, but it's true. I know all of this. It's like the dirty little secrets of conventional medicine. So when you hear somebody say something that sounds crazy or over the top or nobody would ever do that, what do you mean that's what hospitals are like? If you think that, actually it's probably true. So, it's true.
Or worse.
I know, but luckily at the end of the end of the tunnel, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that tunnel is the pathway to the holistic pet space, which is how I first found out about you. And I mean, long before we ever met in person, I discovered your products because I was looking for a way to help my dog who had seasonal, I hesitate to use the word allergies because they're not true allergies. He had environmental sensitivities. He was overly sensitized by certain pollens and grasses and flowers and trees because he had an unhealthy gut microbiome and he had leaky gut. So that caused him to, and Lord knows I could talk about leaky gut for a million years, but that caused him to also become more sensitive to these irritants in the environment. And then he just reacted terribly during the spring and summer to the point where he ended up completely shaved, got recurrent rounds of antibiotics, antifungals, had the cone of shame on him many times. And he was miserable. I mean, he didn't even get to be a dog. Golden retrievers, they want to be swimming in the creek and fetching the stick and rolling in the grass, and instead he was like shaved and sterile getting chlorhexidine shampoo. And so, I entered the holistic pet space and I got him on fresh food and I said, no more Cytopoint. We need to use something natural. I don't want to suppress his immune system. I want to help his immune system. And so that's when I discovered CBD Dog Health. So I'm so excited for you to really kind of break down some of the terminology for us today and some of the many uses of a full spectrum hemp extract and why they're beneficial for every member of the family, although technically I know it's a company for pets.
Yeah, it is. And what you described happened to Bear happens to most people. And I didn't know this until, I had a feeling with my rescue, but it wasn't until I bought a very busy groom shop that then became even busier. And 85% of those dogs that are coming through that groom shop were Bear and had tried everything and they can't imagine. And same thing happens to us, right? We have seasonal allergies. So that's what I keep, blows my mind is how the disconnect between what we suffer from and what our pets suffer from. It's the same. They go through the same darn thing. And we can support them naturally through these tough times so that they don't have that terrible reaction. And what's so silly is that the drugs that they give make things worse. They don't make things better. They may stop the reaction, the itch, but they're making everything else 10 times worse inside. And so the itch is gone, but now your dog's got this weird disease or cancer or a strange rare cancer or liver injury. So it's, I hate Apoquel and Cytopoint. I am constantly trying to tell people because they're just taking advantage of you by giving this awful drug that stops the reaction but does not help. There's not a single pharmaceutical drug that has ever cured anything.
Yeah. Well, and
ever.
that's the problem with it too, is it gets kind of presented as this Hail Mary, right? So when I went into my vet and I said, and she was a lovely woman, and I didn't have dogs growing up. I didn't know anything about anything. And I took him in and I said, his paws are chapped. He's always itchy. He keeps getting these rashes. Like, I think maybe he has allergies. And she looks him over and she's like, yeah, he definitely looks like he probably has some allergies. We could knock that out with some Cytopoint, right? No discussion about side effects, no discussion about risks. I never received the insert for the package. She never told me that I should look things up. It was just, here's this miracle cure. Let me hand it to you. Everything will be fine from here. And what ended up actually happening? He got better for a little while. And then the symptoms came back. So we went back for another shot. And he got better for less time. And then we had to go back for another shot. And the time intervals in between got shorter and shorter until it reached to the point where he needed to be going almost every 3 weeks. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Point is just suppressing the body's response. So it's not helping the immune system to overcome what's causing the problem in the first place. And there was never any discussion about gut health or leaky gut. I highly doubt that she understood the link there and the importance there. We never talked about nutrition. And actually what she recommended me to do was switch him to a novel kibble protein. So instead of feeding chicken and rice, she recommended I switch him to lamb and rice, because lamb is novel and it's much less likely that he would have an allergy to it. Didn't realize that I was going from hot to hotter with my proteins, and that's the last thing an inflamed dog needs. So, it's just so
And again,
tough.
these are things like pet parents know now, and our veterinarians still don't know.
Don't know.
They did. They went to school and learned how to prescribe pharmaceutical drugs. That's what she's doing over and over and over again. And that's what people want. They want that easy fix. They don't want to know they have to actually change what they're eating and change their habits and things like that. So when the person in the white coat goes, just do this, and then that thing works, you're like, oh, I found it.
You're like,
Problem
it was the
that
miracle.
it has a side effect. Right.
Yeah. No.
Has a side effect, and you're going to pay not a little, but majorly later, because those drugs lead to terrible cancers. Terrible cancers. Because they're literally suppressing the immune system.
Right.
So the itch stopped, but now it's opened them up to anything that they come across. And that's extremely dangerous. You've turned off the body's ability to protect itself.
Yeah. Yep. So, you have things that are true immunosuppressants. You have some that are like the JAK2 inhibitors, right? You have in like prednisone, right? Prednisone is in its own terrible category, which prednisone is like a emergency help only for me type of drug, But, dogs get put on prednisone for life sometimes if they have allergies or other problems. But, I consider those kind of like the top tiers, the heavy hitters. But you have the things that are lower down too. Things that I see kind of insidiously slide into the conversation all the time, like Benadryl or Claritin. Antihistamines are not benign, and they have side effects.
No.
One of the scariest of which can actually be urinary retention. You can take an antihistamine. If you get too much, it will cause you to not be able to pee. Did you know that if you can't pee, your bladder will actually explode?
No.
Yes. So, there is no such thing as a benign drug, a benign pharmaceutical. There is always risk of adverse reactions or risk of even just a gentle side effect. But I don't know about you, I don't want to feel any of those things, which is why in our house now we reach for a full spectrum hemp extract. And the thing that I think is super important to even start with before we start getting into the full spectrum hemp extract and terminology and all that stuff is I want you to talk about the master system that this is actually influencing, which is the endocannabinoid system. Or actually now, what do they call it? The endocannabinoidome, right? It's this whole biome. Something that I never learned about in school in conventional medicine, something that I learned about from you. So can you talk about the ECS with us?
Yes. Before I do that, what's the most screwed up thing about all of this is that the actions of Apoquel and Cytopoint, a full spectrum hemp extract has the same exact action but everything else. So pharmaceutical drugs are based on something from a food, plant, or mushroom that worked in that whole form. But you can't patent them and make $1 billion. So they just take a single compound. So those pharmaceutical drugs stopped that action, but didn't do all of the other things that a full spectrum hemp extract that will help bring the body back to homeostasis and actually heal itself.
Yeah.
So the ECS, or the Endocannabinoid System, which was renamed, gosh, I want to say almost 10 years ago now, to the endocannabinoid OM, because they incorporated the entire gut microbiome as part of the system. And when they did that, I was like, hell yeah, nothing more important. So this system is the master system in our body. It is responsible for all of the other systems. Yet our doctors are taught nothing about it. And the reason they're taught nothing about it is because they're taught how to use pharmaceutical drugs. And this system does not interact with pharmaceutical drugs. This system interacts with nature. This system interacts with nature's medicine that comes from plants and comes from mushrooms. It is so important. The other thing that's really screwed up is that it was discovered a long time ago. It's been over 30 years. And the other thing that drives me crazy is that we even know about herbal medicine, yet we're not going to give cannabis its, recognition that it deserves, even though it has non-stop research now. Right. And we have discovered what all of these cannabinoids do. We have a beautiful journal from the British Journal of Medicine that shows that cannabis interacts with 8 of the 12 pathways of cancer in more ways than one. Every time I learn something about this incredible plant, I turn around and practice it or put it into use. And yep, it does what it proves. It's just a beautiful, and it causes no harm.
Yeah.
The worst thing that can happen is that you get high. And I can't believe that that's what people are most afraid of, is their dog getting high. What do you think's happening when they're on the pharmaceutical drugs?
The narcotics.
And that high is not a good one. Yeah,
the
that's
gabapentin.
a bad side effect.
Yeah, scary.
So this system it's basically a series of receptors that are everywhere. They're all over our our microbiome, our cells, our organs, all over our skin, our dogs. Matter of fact, there are 3 layers of skin. The 2 main receptors are called the CB1 and CB2 receptors. They're on each layer of skin, which is why I made topicals, because I could get rid of weird lumps, bumps. I didn't even have to know what they were. I could just put it on and get rid of them.
One of them. I love that this comes with a stick now. So I don't mean to interrupt, Angie, but if you're watching, I have the Soothe stick, and I actually cut myself cutting some food the other day. I had to go to the hospital and get stitches. I had to go get stitches because I couldn't do it myself because I only had one hand. And now that the stitches are out, I've been putting this right on the area 2 to 3 times a day. It helps with the skin discomfort, and it also helps soften up the skin because I'm getting, how it is when you have a scar, it gets all shiny. So, yeah.
And it also has Manuka honey in it, which is extremely healing, and an antibacterial, just like hemp is. So no need to take or put any antibacterial on in yourself or on yourself, because nature's got it covered. It truly is amazing. I've been practicing for like 10 years now, and I mean, I throw my herbs and mushrooms on everything, and they really help everything. And that's why it seems like cannabis does everything, because of this master system that it interacts with. And it's named after cannabis. It's named after cannabis because when they were testing THC out on rats, they saw a response in their brain, in the rat's brain, and they were like, there has to be a reason. What is this reacting to?
Yeah.
So that's literally how they discovered it, was in a rat's brain. And then I think they found the CB1 receptor in the rat's brain. And then they found the CB2 receptor in a dog's gut tissue. So it's just, they're everywhere. These receptors are everywhere, and it controls pain, mood, appetite. Basically, like I said, completely responsibility for keeping us at homeostasis, keeping us balanced, and working towards getting us at balance. So the system produces something called endocannabinoids. And when we do not produce enough endocannabinoids, we start having issues. And what's beautiful is that the cannabis plant produces phytocannabinoids. So when we take them, it fills those deficiencies, brings us back to homeostasis, and we get better. So a lot of times when you're practicing cannabis medicine, you start treating one thing and you see other things get better, where you're like, what?
Yes.
Did it help?
Yes.
Did it help his arthritis?
You're like, wait, I took it for this and now I'm seeing help with this. Yes. And I love how you brought up the phytocannabinoids, because really what that is, that's another phytonutrient, right? And that's why I consider my full spectrum hemp extract to actually really just be kind of a part of my diet. It's not a supplement to me. It's not a topper. It's not anything additional to me. It is non-negotiable. Every day I take it. And I know that I'm helping to keep my whole system, if not replenished, at least stable, So
that's exactly. And everywhere except here, hemp and mushrooms are considered food, and a vital food and an important food. And, herbs, hemp and mushrooms provide so much of the nutrients that are missing in our diet. Vitamin D in particular. You and I worked on a synthetic vitamin and mineral. We did a podcast. You guys should listen to it. It's awesome. And we created that chart together where we proved, you're like, here's all the places you can get vitamin D from food, and here's all the places that we can get it from plants and mushrooms. We're not void. We just have to find them, because the general population doesn't know anything about these mushrooms and herbs and the possibilities that they can do.
Well, luckily you're here to teach them. So let's talk terminology. Let's teach terminology, because people get confused. So like one person might be saying hemp, somebody else says cannabis, someone else says THC, someone else says CBD. What do all these things even mean? Are they interchangeable?
No. So there's lots of problems. So everything is the cannabis plant. If that cannabis plant has more THC in it, the two main cannabinoids are CBD and THC. So if that cannabis plant has more THC, it therefore has less CBD and is considered marijuana. If that cannabis plant has more CBD, it therefore has less THC and is considered hemp. All of that, the definitions are wrong. The United States came up with that, and that's what we're stuck with. Marijuana is actually a slur word, and it was come up with to make it seem like it was a bad, evil drug. So we don't even like the word, but that's what we're stuck with. What works for humans is a little bit more of THC, or a 1-to-1, an equal THC and CBD. The reason that doesn't work for our dogs is that we do have awesome research that shows that our dogs have more of those receptors than we do, especially in their brain and central nervous system. So they're more sensitive to the medicine, which is why a full spectrum hemp extract is so beautiful, because it's like exactly what they need. Us humans, a lot of times we need a little bit more THC. So that's what a full spectrum hemp extract is. It is an extraction of the medicinal properties, those essential oils, out of the flower. We use supercritical CO2 extraction, which basically what that means is that a gas goes all around the flowers and removes all of the compounds without damaging any of them. It is how, when I learned everything that I learned, I was like, how do I make this as close to every time I take it, the same thing happens? So this was the best way of where I could extract and pretty much get the same thing every single time from the specific strains that I was growing.
Gotcha.
So the extract comes out of the flower, and it just has to be put in, it's an oil, so it has to be put in something that helps it become more bioavailable. We also nano emulsify it. We homogenize it all together so that the moment that it goes on the gums, it's immediately absorbed into the bloodstream. So bypasses first pass metabolism. The liver doesn't have to bother the liver. It's already doing it. And that's also why you can calm a dog down pretty quickly, you know, if you're using it for calming, or you can immediately get rid of pain or stop a seizure, which I have done. I can't tell you how many times.
Yep.
So that's why, if that product is made right, that's the effect that it should have. But every dog is different, and every dog's endocannabinoid system is different. So sometimes it may take up to 20 minutes for you to see, you know, a dog calm down, but if it's made right and it's potent, it's going to work.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason why I instruct all of my clients to try and give it along the gums if possible, because of that bioavailability difference, excuse me. So, and I can't tell you how many times I've been on like a Zoom call with a client, and I'm like, oh, and make sure when you give this, you give it on the gums. And they're like, what? And I'm like, come on, I'll show you. And then I pick up my computer and I walk into the living room and I get Bear to come over and sit next to me. He sits like such a good boy. He knows when he's getting his ease. And then I'll take my ease, which I have here, my ease, and I'll just suck it on up into the bottle, and I raise up his gums and I just right on in there. And he takes it just fine.
Right.
Yep. Of course, I just put this in my mouth. This is the one that's been like inoculated with the dog's saliva for the last like 4 months, but that's okay. We all swap saliva.
Way to feed your gut microbiome.
Yes, the microbiome transfer.
Now, it's going to work. It's going to work if you put it on your food, but the way I like to explain it, and what I always like to, how I get people to go, okay, I'm going to put it on the gums, is here you're talking about 95% you're going to get the medicine versus it going through the gut and being metabolized and going through digestion.
Yeah.
You're getting like 50%.
Yeah, maybe 40,
so you're
50.
literally flushing money down the toilet by not doing it that way. But it still does work that way. It just takes longer and it's not as effective. But I've got people who control their dog's pain, arthritis, or whatever, that are still putting it in their food, and and it's working. So it's not like it won't work. It's just more effective when you put it right on the gums.
Yeah. And you can, I mean, you can put it on like the paw pads too, right? If you needed to, or like the tips of the ears a little bit. So, I mean, there's other...
inside the... inside the inner ear is really absorbent for dogs. That's actually the second place that it's more absorbent. And then up the butt, cats is their paws.
Paw pads. That's what I do
if
for
you
my
get it
cats.
on their paw pads. Yeah, it absorbs really nice into their paw pads. You can also rub it on the back of the cat, and if they lick it, it's a good way to get it in there. But yes, it's, you name it, everything that it has already been proven in research, I've done. You know, I've had a case and I've applied what I've learned, and it's amazing. And just for those who don't know me, how I found the medicine in the first place was because I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and that's what I took. And along with fixing my diet and getting all the ultra processed and chemicals and toxins out of my freaking life, which they're everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
It was the game changer. You know, I had to know why this wasn't legal and why everybody couldn't get access to it, because it's a game changer.
Yep. I completely agree. I've been taking it. And again, just a disclaimer for anybody, any big wigs that might be listening, we both fully understand that this is a company. The products are for animals. They are not made for humans. We're not selling it to humans. But I have no problem saying that I have taken this every single day for the past 3 years, and I no longer have to take pharmaceuticals for my cervical spine pain, which I've had for a long time because of my nursing career.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I used to take ibuprofen at least twice a day. I gave myself gastritis twice. I was in such bad shape that I couldn't do anything other than drink milk and broth for a week once. That's how bad my gastritis was.
Oh my God.
And so I haven't had to take that in a really long time. It's very few and far between. And honestly, I'll say too, when I cut my finger, I mean, this was a butcher knife. I cut it down to the bone, and I didn't take any pharmaceuticals for pain. I didn't take any antibiotics. I took that ease. I dropped it into the wound. And then after it was stitched, I put a few drops on there every day. And then I put my dressing on and my steri strips. And now that the stitches are out, I'm using the topical salve. And I mean, it's naturally antimicrobial because of what it's suspended in, and it helps with healing. It's anti-inflammatory. I mean, it just has so many amazing properties. And I can't imagine, I don't know why every home in the world doesn't have a bottle of this, but one of the things
I wanted to take like a picture of like my nightstand of, my bottles and salves versus like a typical, which is a whole bunch of pharmaceutical drugs or your medicine cabinet type of thing. But I had a rescue farm, and I had old dogs with all kinds of problems and farm animals that had problems, like, the person that got chickens and they couldn't keep them, or the pig, the mini pig that's not a mini pig. So all I wanted was to have solutions that worked. Because it gets really expensive having a vet, constantly going to the vet or having a vet come over. And I'm like, I want to know, how do I do this on my own? How do I take care of everything? I did this with my health. How do I do this with them? And that's literally what I did. So having that tool, I'm telling you, all I do all day long. I just was telling you that Maza got her first foxtail thing stuck in her foot. Silver hydrosol and hemp nonstop until I got the sucker out, and now we're healing up nicely. But it's what every senior person should be on, and it helps everything. What people need to understand is that an ibuprofen is not recognized by the body. It's going to get rid of the pain, but it's also going to make your liver overwork, and there's going to be a side effect, which is it's going to damage your damn stomach. And you can't do it forever. This is natural ibuprofen. This is going to get rid of or dampen the pain, and it's going to help your gut, not hurt it.
Right.
What a concept.
100%. 100%. And one of the things that makes these specific formulations work so well is that it's a full spectrum hemp extract, right? So it's full spectrum. It's not an isolate. It's not a broad spectrum. It's not CBD. That's not the name of it, right? CBD is only one compound that's in there. Can you explain that?
Yep. So CBD and THC are the two main cannabinoids that are found in the cannabis plant. There have been 118 cannabinoids discovered so far. There's going to be a lot more because here in the United States, we were studying the same couple strains for years and years and years. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot more. But CBD and THC are the main ones and most important. And everything that you hear me say is all based on a full spectrum, which means it has the mix. So every strain has a different combination of these cannabinoids, but they always have CBD and THC, and then all of these others. So when I talk about strains, if I have a strain that's high in CBG, and I already have amazing research on CBG that it's amazing for dogs with seizures, then that strain is dominant in CBG, but also has CBD and THC in it. So every strain and everything is a little different,
right? So I'm holding up I have my little thing here that has all three formulas, and this is the heel that I'm holding. And the heel is a slightly different strain, for example, than the ease, which we're using for kind of slightly different things.
Exactly. So the plant biology, what the cannabinoid makeup is, makes a difference. But basically, when we're extracting not only all of the cannabinoids that are in that flower, but all of the terpenes, the flavonoids, the fatty acids, the proteins, all of those other compounds. They're all bioactive and they all have a job. Yeah. So my favorite thing is to talk about broad spectrum. So full spectrum is what you want. It has been proven to work in research. Broad spectrum is when they remove the THC, because everybody's scared of the mean old THC for whatever reason, because we have demonized it for years and years. And now we tell people that it's toxic to dogs. It is not toxic to dogs. Matter of fact, in 1973, there was a study called the Rosencrantz study where they literally wanted to see how much THC would kill a person. Yeah. And like they do, they tested it on animals like they do for all of our research. Yep. And they gave rats, beagles, and chimpanzees 9,000 milligrams of THC. 2 rats regurgitate, I know, insanity. I consume cannabis every day. I can't even imagine what that is like. And stupid, right? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
2 rats regurgitated, threw up, and asphyxiated themselves in their sleep, aspirated. And no beagles and no chimpanzees died. So they literally proved that you cannot kill an animal with THC, no matter how much you give it to them. The body will recognize it. The body will metabolize it. The body will remove it because it's too much of it. But you cannot kill an animal or hurt an animal with THC. So taking out the THC is ridiculous and stupid. And not only when you take out the THC, what happens is those 2 main receptors, the CB1 and CB2 receptor I told you about, CBD can't even bind to the CB2 receptor unless THC has bound to it first. So I have no use for broad spectrum products. They're usually, when I hear people go, I tried it and it didn't work. And I'll go, let me see the product. And I'll be like, this is why. It's missing one of its main components to make it work. An isolate is a pharmaceutical drug, an isolate or a supplement. Quercetin is a isolate. Bromelain is an isolate. Silymarin is an isolate. These are they are the CBD in the other plants that have been isolated and taken out, or they've been turned into a synthetic version and made into a pharmaceutical drug. Okay, so the research study that came out in 2019 basically was showing that CBD isolates caused liver injury and damage. So the study came out, it was done on humans, and they had to stop the research study because of the liver injury it was causing. But of course, back then, nobody knew the difference between a full spectrum hemp extract with CBD or CBD isolate or broad spectrum. So everybody thought it was saying that all CBD was bad. Only when it's isolated. And that's what happens all the time with pharmaceutical drugs. And that's why I'm a big believer and going to the source, taking that whole extract of the hemp or mushroom to get all of those bioactive compounds so that it does do all the things that it proves in research. So CBD isolates are dangerous and they should not be taken
alone. So well, they shouldn't be taken at all because you don't want that isolate alone. You want the entourage effect.
It's cheap, you
want all of the compounds.
Just like you don't want ultra processed food. It's ultra processed hemp medicine or cannabis medicine, and you've taken away all of the other things that help it make it do its job, and now have made it dangerous and cause side effects and not be recognized by the body.
So expanding a little bit on the liver, why is it that sometimes, even if you're taking a full spectrum hemp extract, you can see like a little bump in the liver enzymes?
Anytime the liver comes across something different, you're going to have that bump. We just don't want it to stay that way. And oftentimes you can avoid that if we can go right into the bloodstream and bypass the liver altogether or not affect it as much. But it is not something that stays that way or causes damage in the long run. It is perfectly safe. And I've been using it for over 10 years on myself and on my animals. And everything that has been proven already is what I've been able to watch. You know, and that there is no side effect. There is no, it stops working one day, or, a couple years from now, this happened because I was taking this. The opposite happens. You know, I've had dogs that people who take it for, a tumor, and the Cushing's disease goes into remission. Like it's always that they're treating pain. And is it possible that yes, it is. It is possible. Because it is. You're treating the master system. So it is going to take care of those things that nothing else could do.
I've seen people. So that's a great segue to talk a little bit about some of the conditions that we feel can benefit from a full spectrum hemp extract. So we already mentioned like environmental sensitivities, gut issues. You mentioned Cushing's disease, I feel like arthritis is a big one. What else do you
Well,
frequently see pet parents using this for?
well, disease is the inflammation of something.
Mm-hmm.
So why it works so well is because that's its main thing, is to get rid of that inflammation. So
Yeah.
that's why it seems like it works for so many different things, is because
Yeah.
that's what it's doing. And that's why it helps and brings the body back to homeostasis. But allergies is probably, I think Hernando literally just gave me a report yesterday of our top selling, what sells the most, and
Yeah.
ease, because of
Yep.
allergies. And how many people, and I'm so grateful I put that video out, telling
Yeah.
people to stop using these scary drugs and use something naturally instead.
As
But
my shirt says, just say no to drugs and yes to plants and fungi.
you know what? At least try it first.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Give it a try first. Even if you're not a believer, try the natural remedy first.
Yeah.
Make sure it's a good product, because you're going to be pleasantly surprised at the results.
Exactly.
Without the side effect, without the bad side effect. But
Right.
Seizures, dementia, pain, cancer,
Mm-hmm.
amazing with cancer. I brought up the research where it interacts with 8 of the 12 pathways of cancer.
Yeah.
Pain, any kind of pain. And I always like to tell people that, like, just a full spectrum hemp extract would be like taking the ibuprofen. And if you needed something a little stronger, then you would add a little bit more THC.
THC.
If you need something even like Tylenol with codeine, add another adaptogen,
Mm-hmm.
that is known for pain. And I was able to completely control Nina's bone pain from her osteosarcoma with all adaptogens. I never had to give her a pain medication.
Yeah.
And
She
again,
got
pain
additional
meds are,
THC, right? Like separate.
yes, I did give her,
Yeah.
I did. I gave her 10 milligrams of additional THC every night before she went to bed, which absolutely helped with killing the pain. But it's all out there. Everything we need is out there. It's just a matter of finding the product that's grown right and manufactured and preserved right and doesn't have any fillers or additives in it. And if you do,
Exactly.
it's going to work.
And that's why your products are great in terms of no fillers, no additives, no crap. And also just in terms of like growing and sourcing, right? So 100% organic. It's not, mass produced somewhere, right? It's in Colorado. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
We grow all of our hemp in Colorado, and we're manufactured in Colorado.
Amazing. Yep. Amazing. And then you have...
Everything's pure. It's easy.
Pure, easy, and beneficial. And you have some additional things in a couple of these, right? So, we have the Heal, which is just, I think, the pure full spectrum. And then Ease has a couple of different adaptogens in it. And then the Calm, too. I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about what makes the Calm unique.
You bet. The Calm is for calming stress, anxiety, fear. And and we added, I think, the most popular adaptogen known for those benefits, which is lavender. So we add lavender to it, lavender extract. That's right. Mm-hmm. And for frankincense, which was my most favorite and the most famous, because it's what I took to put my rheumatoid arthritis into remission. And what I made for my soul dog, who was diagnosed at the same time with degenerative myelopathy. And neither one of our diseases progressed. And that is a full spectrum hemp extract with frankincense and turmeric extract. Mm-hmm. And the reason that is so beautiful and synergistic is because they share some of the same compounds. So beta-caryophyllene is my favorite terpene, and all 3 have that terpene in it, and it's the most powerful anti-inflammatory, and that's why it works so well. It really does calm down any type of inflammation or irritation, and I don't know anybody who's ever tried Ease that they were like, oh, what? That's it?
That's phenomenal.
Half a dropper? Whatever it is.
And I can see why that would be so helpful for certain things that are like autoimmune type conditions. So thyroid disorders, endocrine disorders, disease, Cushing's disease, things like that, because there's such a huge underlying inflammatory component, which is almost never discussed, right? It's always, take some thyroid hormone. Oh, you're on steroids for life. And it's not, I think the root cause analysis never gets done. And it's just slapping the Band-Aid over the symptoms, right? Treating the symptoms, giving something for the symptoms. Whereas something like a full spectrum hemp extract which has these additional adaptogens, which on their own have properties that are anti-inflammatory, is going to help knock out that over-inflamed, I mean, really body-wide issue once it comes down to getting the, you know, you kind of like name the disease, right? Once it's named, you know that there's inflammation everywhere.
Right. Well, remember, each of those organs have the receptors all over it. So that's why it's going to help. That's when the first time I heard about Cushing's disease, I didn't even know what it was. The person was taking it to get rid of a tumor that they had had on their dog for 13 years and didn't want to get it cut off. It dried up and fell off in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then she said, is it possible it's helping my dog's Cushing's? This is like in the very beginning. I didn't even know what it was. I Googled what Cushing's disease was, and I was like, oh, it's a tumor on the pituitary or adrenal gland. And yes, a full spectrum hemp extract will shrink and kill that tumor. And so that's probably what's going on. And once that tumor is gone, the symptoms go away because it's not there anymore. So yeah, it is solving this Cushing's disease you speak of. Yeah. So I get to hear about Cushing's disease going into remission on a daily basis because they're giving it to help their dog with something else like pain or whatever, sometimes even just anxiety, and they end up getting rid of another disease. Pharmaceuticals don't do that. They don't get rid of any disease. They just suppress the body's reaction to it.
Yeah, amazing. So I think a good way to wrap up would be for you to tell us how pet parents can determine if a full spectrum hemp extract product is actually a good one. We know, you and I, unfortunately, that the market over the last few years has really gotten saturated. There are other options out there. There's buzzwords, there's red flags that maybe people don't always know what to look for. So what's the best way for them to approach looking for a product to make sure they're getting top quality?
Make sure it's a full spectrum hemp extract. One of the new things I'm seeing is full spectrum hemp extract with CBDA in it, which is another cannabinoid. Now what they're doing is they're taking full spectrum and adding isolates into the full spectrum, which makes a COA, a certificate of analysis, look really good. But that's what you want. On every natural product, you should get a certificate of analysis from a third-party lab. And what that COA is going to show you, most importantly, is that that natural product is free from contaminants. So mycotoxins, herbicides, pesticides, solvents, anything that could be bad that's in it that could hurt your dog. And that COA will tell you that those things are not in it. Every natural product should have that. Awesome. If you're dealing with a hemp product, you're also going to want to see what cannabinoid profile is in that. And the only way to prove that it's a full spectrum is that you see a little bit of THC in there. So sometimes they're graphs, sometimes they're wheels, sometimes they show percentages. What you're looking for is to make sure THC is in it. And remember, 0.03 is what's legal in the United States. And that's all we need to make a product, a full spectrum product. It will not get your dog high. If for some reason it does because it's super sensitive, you just reduce the amount and you build up their tolerance. They're not always going to be that way. So if they don't have a COA that you can easily find, I'd say move on. If you can't find a COA that's less than a year or two old, move on. I, as a manufacturer, put a QR code on every single one of my products that take you to this batch number on the bottom of every bottle that shows you the COA that goes with this batch. Awesome. So that's what should be going on. And that's the only way, because you and I both know that 85% of supplements worldwide are ineffective and are trash. And sometimes they're worse than trash. They're filled with sawdust or sand or fillers or maltodextrin or whatever it is. And that actually causes harm to the body. And it pisses me off because we shouldn't be giving our old dogs these additives, these synthetic isolates and additives that don't belong in their food or their supplements.
100% agree. Angie, thank you for educating us and taking the time to talk about this. Whoops, as my cat shakes the camera. Oh my gosh, this was a really informative conversation, and I feel like this is really kind of like break down those unknowns that I feel like a lot of pet parents have. or even conventional vets who are maybe new and dipping their toe into the holistic pet space that want to learn about this. So this is a great way to just kind of learn the basics of what you need and then be able to continue to expand from there and see how you can use an amazing product from nature to help with, I mean, not even just chronic disease, right? As prevention, just everyday wellness, which is what I use it for in my home. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
What is the best way for people to find your products if they're interested in purchasing?
CBDDogHealth.com. I think we have all of the products on there.
I think so too.
Mycodog.com is for the mushrooms. And then my website, Angela Ardolino, is where a lot of the education type stuff is. And then I have a podcast, Your Natural Dog, that you have come on.
One of my favorites. Yep.
Thanks. I
love listening to it.
This is all we talk about. Natural stuff. Natural healing.
Nature and healing.
That's right.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. And I will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please remember that you, yes, you, are the driving force that helps keep small businesses and platforms like mine running. So if you liked what you heard, please like, share, and most importantly, rate this podcast. It's the only way we can reach more people and spread the word about natural health. None of the conditions discussed or recommendations given are meant to replace the advice of your health provider. So if you have concerns about yourself or your pets, please confer with a human or animal health practitioner. Have a super fantastic day, and I'll see you next week.